Welcome back to another episode. I'm Ben from B. Taylor Outdoors, and today I'm going to try to teach y'all how to run a HRC Seasoned Test. So let's get started. For the HRC Seasoned Test, I'm going to look at some of the rules real quick and just kind of tell y'all what we're looking at. The HRC Seasoned Test is, I think, 5 or 6 different actual tests inside of one. So you have a double mark on land, a double mark on water, a water blind, a land blind, a diversion bird, and a walk up or walk out or a quartering flush. I haven't seen them ever do a quartering flush in my area, so 99.9% of the time I think you're going to end up seeing a walk up or walk out, however the judges want to run the test. So those are the elements that you're going to have to deal with in the HRC. Also, a little bit different from what I did in the junior and started video that I did a while ago, and I'll link that video up in the eye up here. And it is, your dog has to be steady, so you can't hold their collar. So they can't show up to the test with a flat collar, e-collar, their regular collar that has their name and number and all that stuff on it. You can't use that. You've got to show up with basically nothing on the dog. Even their little, if you use the flea collars, like the Seresto collars, they have to come off as well. I'll start that off. So for your landmarks, they can't exceed any more than 100 yards. And the watermarks are 75 yards, and the land and water blind cannot exceed 60 yards. The diversion and the walk up or walk out, they're not going to be long. They're 20, 25 yards at the most. Your diversion is going to be 10 to 15 yards at the most of the time. So those are the elements of your HRC Seasoned Test. So let's look at some of the things that you need to be doing before you get to the test. So 1, your dog has to deliver to hand. I forgot to mention that. They have to deliver to hand. So you want your dog to be fully force fetched. You want your dog to be able to run solid cold blinds. Now in the HRC, you actually pick up a shotgun, put a shell in it, and fire it towards the blind to simulate a crippled bird, or I'm not exactly sure what it does. It's one of those things in the test that I'm not a huge fan of, but if you got to do it, you got to do it. So I would prepare for that. If you've never shot a shotgun over your dog to run a blind, get your dog used to it, because sometimes it can freak them out a little bit if you've never done it before. And I'll demonstrate that when we get into the testing scenario. And so, like I said, force fetched. You want them to be able to run cold blinds. They have to be steady. If you think your dog's steady, they'll prove you wrong at a test. Belle has done it to me at a master test. And I mean, she was 3.5 years old. She broke on the flyer. So I thought she was steady, and she was not. So be prepared and make sure your dog is steady. Next is a diversion bird. So the diversion bird is where a bird is thrown when your dog is coming back with a bird in its mouth. And for young dogs, this drives them crazy, and they'll want to drop the bird that they have in their mouth and go run over and pick up the diversion bird that you shot that was flying in as they were coming back. So if you switch in seasoned, it's not going to kill you, but it's something you need to be prepared for. And it's, when they throw it in the test, they throw it way out and away, so it's not really in line with the dog. Or so if they go and switch, they've made a big mistake, but it's not as bad as it would be in finished. Your blinds, like I said, you need to be able to run cold blinds, and I would suggest running cold blinds out to 100, 150 yards at the minimum if you're going to be running a 60-yard blind. and you need to be able to do it on land and water, like I said earlier. The walk-up is probably the most difficult part of the test because you're moving. So go back, and you can do this in your front yard, in your backyard, and it's easy. Take the dog, walk them at heel, have a bumper or bird or whatever you want to throw off to your side, and sit as you're heeling, as the dog is heeling next to you. Sit or blow your whistle to get them to sit, and throw the bumper, duck, whatever you're using, and they'll get used to it. Then as you get to that, add the shotgun element into it. So I'm going to demonstrate all of this in the testing scenario that I'm going to show y'all. I'm just going to do land today, but water is very similar. Now your watermarks aren't going to be super cheaty, or they're not supposed to be super cheaty. The landmarks aren't supposed to be in super high cover or thick cover, so you can't see the dog or the dog can't find the bird. And that's about all I can think of for what you need to be able to do. I'll go ahead and say, when you start the test, you can no longer touch your dog. So you can actually, let me back up a little bit. When you come from the holding blind to the field, put them on lead and keep them on lead. And if you have to switch from the bucket to the seasoned to the blind, from the marks to the blind, you can either meet them at the blind pole or at the blind bucket, or you can sit there at the marks, take the bird, put them on lead, and walk them there. You don't want them to get a little antsy and jacked up and trying to walk at heel and running around and stuff like that. So let me go ahead and get the testing set up, or the test scenario set up for y'all, and I'll get Belle out and I'll run it like I would a test. 3 things I wanted to mention. First, I'm using Dawkins, I'm not using real ducks, but if you get to a test, you will see real birds. Whether they're pigeons, ducks, pheasants, chukar, quail, you're gonna see real birds. 99% of the time, it's gonna be a duck. Third is the HRC has enacted a new policy as of I think a week or so ago. And this is June 15th, I think. June 14th, 15th, something like that. So wearing dark colored shorts and like a hat like this is no longer acceptable for the HRC. It's got to be a camo hat and camo shorts and a camo top. So that was something else I wanted to mention. And also, if you haven't, which I kind of talked about this earlier, but I didn't, you will be using a pump gun with popper shells. So if your dog gets out in front of you, just remember, start practicing getting that gun up and over them and then shooting, and you're still okay. Also, one other thing I wanted to mention is when you're running the test, don't say no here if your dog breaks. Just say here. If you say no here, the judge may think that you're saying you're done, and they're gonna scratch it out and fold the page over and say you're done. That's what they're thinking, because then you're turning it into training and not testing. So if your dog for some reason starts to break, either say sit or here, one or the other. Just don't say the word no. Try to refrain from saying the word no. Now if the dog's next to you and they're trying to start chewing up the bird, or they're not giving it to you, no, sit. Something like that, that's okay. But if they're breaking after the go bird or the memory bird, one or the other, just remember to say sit or here. Do not say no here. So I got the test set up. I'm gonna go show it to y'all and we'll get ready to roll. When you start the test, you're gonna start here in the holding blind with your dog on lead. And as you go, you're gonna walk out of the holding blind, walk up to the bucket or the chair that I have, and right behind that long mark, or behind the mound, is going to be the first mark that comes out. So you're going to shoot that, turn, and you see the tree right there. That's going to be your go bird. So you're going to run those 2 marks, pick them up. So this is going to be your go bird. Pick it up, come back, pick up your memory bird. Dog comes all the way back to heel with the bird, delivers to hand. Then you're going to take the bird, you're going to turn here, and I don't think you can see it, but there's a blind pole somewhere right there in the middle, and it's kind of turned at an angle, and you're going to run that. As the dog is coming back from the blind, there's going to be a diversion, and it's going to be thrown this direction, outside of the test. Once your dog comes back with the blind, they're allowed to go pick up the diversion. Once the diversion is picked up, you're going to turn. We're going to come back to this blind. The judge will hand you your gun and a popper, and you're going to do your walkout. And the walkout's going to come out from behind that holding blind right there. You're going to walk at heel. Tell your dog to sit or blow your stop and sit whistle while the bird is in the air. So do that while the bird is in the air. When the bird hits the ground, release your dog. Make sure your gun's safe. When your dog comes back with the bird, take it from him, hand the bird to the judge, put the leash back on the dog, and you're done. Here, kennel, 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 heel, heel, sit. Sit. So this is how I like to sit, get the dog in the holding blind. I like them to just look out behind me. They can see everybody walking around and spectators and stuff. Then they're not trying to pay attention to the test. They're not trying to go up under the holding blind on either side. So let's get ready to test. Dog to the line. Heel. 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 Sit. So when I get to here, heel. Sit. I'm going to have them sit, take the lead off, stick it in my pocket. I'm then going to proceed and load 2 shot shells. Sit. I'm going to try to get her to just settle down. Sit. Mark. Sit. I'm going to try to get her lined up between the 2 marks to keep her from having to do a big swing. So that's something I'm always trying to do, is trying to keep them in the middle so their feet don't have to move, just their head, if possible. Also, you will get sound in the HRC. Sit. Heel. Sit. 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 Bell. That gun is safe and open. And I'm just going to let her hunt. And this is not good right here. Sit. I just had to handle on my first mark. That's not good. Because now I can't handle on any other mark or I'm gonna fail the test. Here. I like to get set up for my memory bird before the dog gets back. Heel. 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 Mark. Sit. Good. Good. Bell. Hopefully she remembers where this one is. And she's behind the hill. She's staying in the hunt area, so I'm not going to handle her. Now, if she starts to head back over to this mark over here, I'm going to stop her and handle her to that bird, and we're going to be done. Good. She went directly to the area of the fall, established her hunt, and she hunted. So that's perfectly fine. Good girl. Here. Heel. 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 Sit. Drop. Sit. Heel. So we're now going to, here, move over to the land blind. Heel. Here. Sit. Sit. And you'll see some people just pull up and boom. Or they'll get way down here and sit. They get way down here and try to get their dog to look down the gun. It doesn't matter. Just sit. Heel. 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 Here. 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 Sit. Sit. Good. Back. Now we're going to get ready for our diversion. There goes one. Here, here, here. Heel. Easy. Easy. Bell. Good. Heel. Here. Heel. Sit. We're done with that portion. Now this portion, sit, is your walkout, heel. So remember, I put her back on lead so we can walk up to here, under control, sit, sit. At this point in time, this is when you'll pull the lead off. The judge will hand you the gun. Sit. I forgot my freaking electronics. Sit. The judge will hand you your gun and one popper. So load your one popper. And normally you do not get sound on your walkout or walk up. Heel. Heel. Here. Heel. Heel. Sit. Sit. Bell. Make your gun safe and open. And I should have sent her before I tried to do all that. Heel. And at that time you would make sure you hand your gun off. Here. Heel. Heel. Sit. Take your bird, sit. And all then you won't be handling all this stuff that I'm handling right now. Sit. Heel. And you would walk back to the truck. And also, don't forget to thank your judges. That was not a great performance. I had to handle on the Go Bird. So, if I was going into the water series, and after we had done all that, all I had to do was do a double on water and run my water blind after all that. So, at that point in time, all I would need is for her to go and pick up her 2 marks and run a good blind, and we would pass. So, if there's anything that I may have forgotten to tell people that are new to the HRC, go ahead and comment those down below. And if y'all like this video, go ahead and give me that thumbs up. And if y'all haven't subscribed already, I've already got one video on how to run Started and Junior. I'll be doing more on the AKC Seasoned, the HRC Finished, AKC Master, some Derby stuff, and some Qualified All-Age stuff. So y'all go ahead and subscribe, and you'll be able to keep up with everything we're doing. And remember, their season never ends.